thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, brought to you by Hierophant Publishing, Hampton Roads Publishing, and Insight Events USA. Books and programs for the body, mind, and spirit. Freeman and Michael's here. Clark Peterson and Roger Allers are here as well. And we've been talking about The Prophet. The Prophet is a new film. It's an animated feature film based on the writings of Khalil Gibran. And it's a beautiful film and a very important film from my perspective. And before we went to break, I was thanking you guys for making it because, again, the opportunity to have an experience of this work early in life, I feel sets one up for, a really rich and deep resource to go to. Listen, I want to make a quick switch because we're bringing on the other executive producer and one of the stars of the show, the movie. Salma Hayek, of course, doesn't need much introduction. Everyone knows her acclaimed career as an actress. What I want to introduce you as, Salma, is a visionary leader, and specifically a visionary leader who's operating from a place of heart. You haven't been on the show yet, but we've talked a lot about how this is a project, The Prophet, based on the writings of Khalil Gibran, is a heart project, and everyone involved has some personal attachment to the material, and that's why they did it. So let's start there. First of all, welcome.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a little late.
No, don't worry. Roger has shared with us, and Clark has shared with us, why this project is so meaningful to them. I'd love to know why it's so meaningful to you.
Oh, my goodness. We need a couple of hours.
I know.
First of all, the book is very dear to me, like everyone else that works in the film, except Cuevas Rene, who had never heard of it. But after seeing the movie, she not only went and got the book, but she wanted to do some research and find out more about the author. For me, it was my grandfather because he was Lebanese, and he had the book right next to his bedside table all the time. And I was haunted by the cover of the book. And are you guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. And my grandfather died when I was only 6 years old, and it was a great loss for me. We were very close. And when I was like 18, 19, I found that book again. I didn't even know the name. I only knew the man in the cover who reminded me of my grandfather, Elias. And I borrowed it, and when I read it, to me, it was as if my grandfather was reaching out to me, and he was teaching me through this book about who he was, his heritage, and most importantly, about life.
I love it.
So I have a very special connection with it. Well,
and I love the idea that you were introduced to it as a child by your grandfather. I want to quote a little bit of the poem on children, if you don't mind. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. Those words are beautiful, and I'm sure you heard them as a small child, but now I know you have children, so I'm curious what those words mean to you today.
When I first got the book, it was the whole concept of the book and the thing with my grandfather. And then through different times in my life, different poems have come to life. When I first read that poem, to me, it empowered me as an individual that loved her parents, but that was separate from the parents. It is as powerful for the children and the teenagers and the young adults as it is for the parents, because we also have to take a responsibility that we cannot blame everything on our parents.
Right.
It is, and we cannot expect for them to do everything and solve all our problems and take over our lives. we need to learn also how to fly. And it is a bittersweet concept, but there is something liberating in having the courage to accept it. When I first...
Go ahead.
Huh?
No, go ahead.
No, when I first read it, to me, it gave me kind of permission that it was okay to love my parents, but to understand that my life was mine and no one else.
And as a parent, personally, because I have children, for me, it's a spiritual aspiration to really, because every parent has this almost knee-jerk inclination to want to save your children or direct their lives. And what's magical for me about this poem is it reminds me that isn't really my role. My role isn't to give them my thoughts. My role is to, actually learn from them, which the poem says, which is such fantastic parenting advice, right?
Yes. You may seek to be like them. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you.
Exactly.
And that is the part that reminds us of that opportunity to guide them, but understand that they're also our teachers.
Yeah. One of the other perspectives, you weren't here for it, but we talked a little bit about the perspective on death. And actually, Clark was sharing that he has a friend that's dying, and in sharing this with his friend, this idea that we're not our bodies, that we are something bigger than that, is so generous. You, I know, come from a Catholic background. I come from the same background, which, gave me some great spiritual roots, but also has a dogma associated with a heaven and hell. And I love the idea that we are not, that the lifetime is not finite, and that death is actually a welcoming of a new dance, is kind of how it's illustrated beautifully in the film. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd like to share a story with you about that. I think our children, I think all of us are afraid of death. We don't realize how much it mortifies children. And they are constantly worrying about the death of the parents, but they don't show it. Maybe they don't talk about it. Some children do, but they are all. Imagine when you are so little and you realize that this is not forever. You just arrived here and you're gonna die. It's a terrifying thought that every child is confronted with. And I want to share the story with you about my daughter. When my daughter saw the film. And she always had a lot of anxiety about that, very early on, and we tried to talk to her and things, but she always was a little bit disturbed by this concept of life. And when she saw the film, afterwards she made a poem about how we are spirit, and therefore we are free, and that we cannot be encapsulated by anything, not even our own bodies. And because we are free and we are spirit, we are eternal, and we never die. And with the poem, we did a drawing of my grandmother, who she was always upset that she never got to meet my grandmother. She's always asking questions about her. She made a drawing of my grandmother coming out of her coffin, dancing as a spirit among everyone else in the family.
Wow.
And I think that watching this film, it gave her a sense of, she made her peace with this immense concept of death that has filled with her whole life. It took away the fear, the stigma, the desperation that comes with it, and it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Wow. And that is the power of these words, and that is the power of this work. Listen, Salma, I am so grateful you spent the time with us today. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Clark. Folks, I want to highly, highly recommend this film. It is a beautiful film. It, again, is The Prophet, based on the writings of Khalil Gibran. We say go see it as many times as you can. Bring your family, bring your friends. And thanks for tuning in to Cutting Edge Consciousness.